on my screen. Lee, if you see others that are raising their hands that, and I'm not catching it, please feel free to interject. And I'll do my best to address as many questions as we can throughout. But the starting point of the circuit, before we get to sort of the circular economy, kind of we've got to lay out the current model, or the traditional historical model, I should say. And that is more of a linear economy. And in that linear economy, the typical model has been we extract something or grow something, extract something out of the ground, grow something on the ground. In this case, we're looking at the life cycle of a pair of jeans. So starting on the left-hand side, that cotton production, we're producing something or extracting a natural resource. Through the manufacturing process, in this case, the steps 2 and 3 in the life cycle of a pair of jeans, we take that raw material and craft something out of it. So in this case, it goes from just raw cotton to yarn, and then from yarn into a manufactured garment, a pair of jeans. And then once that garment once that product, in this case, a pair of jeans, is manufactured, use a lot of transportation and logistics to get the finished product from wherever it is produced into the consumer's hands. Increasingly, this is involving transportation from, at least for the US consumers, transportation from Asia markets into the United States. But similarly from Latin America and a variety of other places. But there is a heavy transportation and use of logistics to get it from point A to point B. And then once we're in the use phase, in the consumer care phase, that's all the stuff that you and I do with it. And whether that's washing, dyeing, bleaching, you name it, all of the things that wear it, all of the things that you and I, the individual consumer, do with a pair of jeans once we have it in our hands. And for however long we use it, that's the consumer care phase. And then in this case, historically, what has been the model of operation is that once the consumer is finished with it, whatever it is, it's disposed of. Again, in this case, if we're looking at a pair of jeans, once we wear holes in the knees, once we get threadbare, once we feel like the pair of jeans, well, in my case, once we outgrow the waistline, once we feel we have no further use for that garment, we dispose of it more traditionally. Now, so that's the historical model. That's the historic linear model. And one thing this linear model has really done well is produce a lot of waste globally. And this data is a couple of years old, but it comes from the UN Environment Program. On average, the quantity of waste that's generated on an annual basis is about 3.8 billion tons, with a vast majority of that coming from, vast majority, with a large majority of that coming from construction and demolition. So just, stuff being knocked down and rebuilt. Commercial waste, so that's office waste, business waste. Municipal waste, that is the stuff that you and I are directly responsible for, the stuff that, at least in New York City, goes out curbside, as well as in a number of other cities, curbside. And then industrial waste, a big manufacturing industrial waste that goes out. But that's the biggest chunk of it. It's the stuff that, the municipal stuff is the stuff you see on our sidewalks. And so, but it's all together, it really presents a rather large amount of just stuff that's discarded. So that's a downside of the more traditional linear economy. An upside of that linear economy is that it worked from an economic standpoint. It has worked really, really well. For advanced economies, as resource consumption has gone up, so has their economic development. So what you see on the x-axis here is GDP, measure of just the quantity of economic activity that takes place on individual countries. You see Australia, United States, Germany out to the right. So for these more advanced economies, with their advancement, with their growth in size and power, economic power, there has been similarly a increase in resource use. So one drives the other. Economies that are less mature, Bangladesh, Niger, on the lower left, what you see is that their resource consumption is far, far lower. But overall, what this graphic indicates is that with more economic activity, resource use follows. All right. So again, key tenets